And just like that, we are 2 weeks away from the new year. For some of us, this has been our best year yet. For most of us, it's been far more challenging. But I think that there's one thing that we can all agree on. It's time that we slow the down. I've been spending a lot of time reflecting on the darkness that seems to be ever more arising. We have violence consuming our streets as the sights of war are on our horizon. Mental health is an epidemic that we pretend doesn't exist, while we focus on consuming our way through the world's economic unravel. And education, well, that's just a fuel to the fire that is chaos. So I wanted to share a few reasons why I believe we have lost our way. It's our moral obligation to be remarkable. I was introduced to this concept from a Modern Wisdom podcast with Jordan Peterson, where he mentions that because the world is so difficult and challenging, if we do not give our best, we will be taken over by the bitterness and become a force for darkness and not good. And while this statement in itself is a mountain that will take years for me to be able to conquer, I want to do my best to practically apply this. Last year, I was swimming at the river that runs through the Texas State campus, and I heard a kid yelling for help. He was drowning less than 5 feet away from a group of people on the shallow end, and no one did anything. I was able to get to him just as he had begun to completely sink and managed to bring him over to the shallow end, where his mom pulled him out of the water and they just left. She was completely emotionless, and the group of guys later came over to me and jokingly said, "Good thing you were there, what a hero." No one at all seemed to see the seriousness in what had just happened. I was not a hero. I only did the right thing. I really struggled with this moment for quite some time, as I felt like all good had left the world. Someone's life was literally about to be lost, and instead it was just treated as some joke. I do believe bitterness is a sickness that is taking over the world, that because one was wronged, they are going to give back to the world by no longer doing the right thing, no matter what the circumstance is. And I noticed time and time again when I worked at the bank that we are continuously selling our morals. I, however, do not believe that our morals can easily be corrupted. This, I believe, gets broken by fear. Fear that if I lose my job, I cannot pay my bills. Fear that if I stand up to my boss, then I will not be able to get a promotion. And this fear ultimately creates the very thing that you are afraid of, that you are not enough. Receiving enough degrading remarks time and time again, slowly becoming the very thing that brings you pain. That day at the river still gets me incredibly emotional, and I hate to even bring it up, but I feel like this is the only way to highlight the point I'm trying to make. That moment made me have a loss of faith in the good in people. I felt like the darkness had won, but it was not until I realized the action within myself proves that it didn't, nor will it ever. If the world is entirely consumed in darkness, even one flicker of light will shine through. I believe that we are so focused on the degradation of society, we continue to ignore the fact that change starts within us. That the remarkable things that we do to fortify our moral structure is simply by just doing our best. We may never change the entire world, but we can certainly be a helping hand, a shoulder to lean on, an ear to actually listen to the concerns of the person in front of us. And I have shared this quote before, but there is not a time that rings more true. A day may come when the courage of men fails, when we forsake our friends and break all bonds of the fellowship. But it is not this day. Community starts with you. I had the most profound thing happen to me recently. I was walking at my apartment complex, so focused at what I needed to do, all the things on my schedule, with all the fear, doubt, and overwhelm just knocking at my door. And an elderly man stopped and gave me the most genuine good morning I'd ever experienced. And I said it right back with him with great enthusiasm, as the negative feelings and overwhelm had just completely dissipated. To him, that may have just been a simple good morning. But for me, it was the light I needed for the isolation I had put upon myself, proving that change really does happen with you. There's a great article posted on Frontiers, I went ahead and linked it down below, that discusses that as we hit puberty, our prefrontal cortex begins to conceptualize our sense of self more social, which is showing that the same part of our brain that thinks about others also thinks about ourselves. There is a scene in SpongeBob where he is taking out the trash at night. He opens the door from the Krusty Krab and hectically runs to the trash, runs back and takes a few deep breaths, and then says, "Piece of cake." In reality, this is how many of us are living our lives, frantically trying to avoid some piece of chaos in the outside world, and then coming back to the safety of our own home, as we dissociate entirely from the world around us, as there certainly is plenty of chaos in the world. If we only choose to see that and ignore all of the good, then psychologically, that is how we see ourselves also. As I grew up more in the country outside of Austin, on the back roads, everyone waved to each other, even if you didn't know them. It was just a subtle reminder that, hey, I'm right there with you. But now no one waves. So I decided that I will always make a priority that I wave. Let's actually take a moment to slow down. Realize that there is all sorts of crazy things happening in the world, but that even a small good morning, gently smiling at someone as you walk by, or even just a soft wave while you're driving, can be the comfort that someone else needs, while also reinforcing to you that there is far more amazing things in the world that is just being ignored by fear. I guess we are just going to share my favorite quotes we have used this past year. Fear is the path to the dark side. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering. Cherish failure, mistakes, and pain. When I quit my job, I've been told time and time again that I am courageous, I'm brave, I have nuts of steel, and was even told by the market director of financial advisors in the Austin area for the bank that I worked at that I will be back. My parents raised me in a way that allowed for me to make my own decisions. Fall down, get bruised up, but were always there to help put the Band-Aid on and reflect on what just happened. And even recently, I've had moments where the fear and the doubt just busted down my door. As societally, I did take a big risk. So I call my dad, wanting to be comforted, having my hand held and just guide me to success. But I always get the advice that I need to hear, the wisdom that we are now scared to share. It is all a part of the journey. If there is one person that has shown me what real resilience is, it's my mom. Running her own business for my entire life, providing me with a life that often I don't voice how grateful I am, but being courageous enough to share that the mistakes and the errors that she's made along the way. We treat failure as if it's a dead end, and we scar ourselves with our mistakes. But in reality, success and victory is far more blinding. I don't have nuts of steel. I am not courageous based on this decision. I did this because I knew this to be right. I knew I had to make this decision. I knew I could make a difference by creating a community where we could all learn from each other. Waking up each day looking fear, failure, pain all in the eye, and still choosing to take one step in front of the other, as it's all a part of this journey. So let's all just take a moment. Let's slow the down and let's just try our best.
In the light of this moon, my mind keeps searching, but my heart decides. Thoughts can be cruel, they're not mine to own. The space unravels when you let go. What's yours, it ain't mine, that energy goes today. The feather in the fire will blow it home your way.